My name is Jessica Dean. I am the founder and director of Sober Living Incorporated, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I was born January 26, 1983. I was born in Archer City, Texas. I was born to Karen and Randy Kaufman. Born in Archer City, started going to school in Albany, and I knew from a very young age that something wasn't right at my family, in my home. Mostly had to do with my mom. Didn't really know what all was going on until started school in probably elementary school, and remember the teachers coming in and we had drug awareness, the dare dog. And I took my information home, and at a very young age my parents set me down and told me that the things that went on in our house didn't get to go back to school, that if I took those things back to school I would be taken away from my family. At a very young age I found out that my mom was a heroin addict and my dad was a drug smuggler. My dad smuggled for the cartel across up from Mexico. There was always rampant amount of drugs and alcohol in my home. At a young age I can remember being in East Side with my mom. She had some friends there that she would buy her heroin from and stuff. And most of my life was just centered around my parents' drug and alcoholism. Couldn't have friends come over to the house, couldn't have any bit of a normal life because my mom was always smacked out on pills, laying face down in her food, stuff like that. My dad was home, not home, home, not home. Always a lot of scary individuals around my house. To me, they were like my godparents, but looking back now, they weren't probably the best people. I still love them, but I grew up hard, I grew up fast, and I grew up rough. By age 17, I was an IV drug user, and I was an IV drug user with my mom. She passed away a few weeks before I turned 18, and something inside me kind of changed. I sobered up for a little while. I went back to Harrell, to the Accelerated Learning Center here in Wichita Falls. I got my high school diploma, and went back to high school, got that. Went back to drugs that next year, stayed on drugs till I was 20. At 20, I got pregnant. I had my son when I was 21. Was still on drugs, but not. I was faking it to make it. I was kind of built a little bit of a name here in the community. I was with my mother-in-law. We had a commercial daycare here in town. I was going to church, and I just kind of played the part, but behind the scenes, I was still taking pills and drinking. I divorced my first husband, got married again. Same thing, faking it to make it. And it had been 7 or 8 years since I had done any drugs intravenously or anything like that. And I can remember the day I went over to get some pills, and this guy I was with got out some cocaine. And he's like, "You want to do some coke?" And I said, "Yeah, hold on, I'll be right back." Got in my car and I drove all the way to my dad's house, and I got an insulin syringe out, and I hid it in my bra, and I stole it out of my dad's house. And that was the first time I relapsed after 8 years of not doing any shooting up of drugs. And I went back, and it was off to the races. I went back and shot up a bunch of cocaine with Ray, and my life just went progressively downhill. That was probably 2012. My husband at that time, Dusty, he passed away in 2013. He died from withdrawal from some medication that he was taking. He fell and he hit his head, and he died from a brain injury. I lost my kids. I lost everything. He had worked for Halliburton. I got a very large amount of life insurance at that time, and I was just off to the races. I went from bad to worse, eventually becoming what this community thought of as a gang member. I was very violent. I was very aggressive. I was very sad. I was very hurt. I was very lonely. In that time, my dad passed away. I'd lost both my kids. My dad was my best friend. My mom had already passed away. I lost my brother and my sister. So it was just me out there, just doing my thing. I was known to carry guns. I was known to traffic women, prostitute, sell drugs, sell guns, kidnap people, burn houses down, you name it, I did it. I was bad. I was really bad. In 2018, I can remember my party I was at got raided, and Officer James Carpenter from the Narcotics Division stood in front of me, and I remember his badge was hanging around his chest, and he told me, he said, "You're good, Dean, you're good. We don't ever catch you. Never caught you. Never caught you." He said, "We catch these guys that you're running with." They all tell on you. He said, you're going to do the rest of your life in a federal penitentiary if you don't change. And that got me thinking. I didn't have anybody, and I didn't want to do that. So I started looking into going to the Hope Center. Fast forward a little bit, a couple months, I had to catch one more car charge. I stole another truck, and my good friend Brandon, can I say his name? Brandon McCraw, snitched on me. And I had to go to county jail. While I was in county jail, I ended up pleading out and getting a 1244A to, I think, 2 felonies instead of like 8. They put me in Hope Center, and went to Hope Center for 5 months. Went in, I think, October, maybe 4 months, October 2018 to February 2019. February 2019, I was working out at Tex Rec, and I'd made some friends out there. I had a couple guys out there that I hung out with, and I just walked off from out there. I met this guy, they call him Money. I met Money. Money handed me a handful of money when I walked off, and I left. I never went back to Hope Center. My boyfriend at that time was also at the Hope Center. He left shortly after me, and it just went from bad to worse again, fighting, carrying on. I caught another charge, caught an aggravated robbery charge in 2019. Went back to jail, stayed in there 96 days in county jail. Just praying every day, God, give me something when I get out of here. Give me something that doesn't go to the left. It doesn't go to the right. Give me something that's just for me, forward. I know when I walk out of here, this is what your plan is for me. It was in 2019. I had, before I got locked up, I'd gone with a lady named Lori Perkins, and she took me to look at some properties that belonged to Max Green. And she told me he wanted to open a sober living. He had an idea. He had a dream. He had the properties. He had the resources, and he had the money. Well, I ended up getting in trouble, and I'm sitting in county jail with Brandy Mello, who's my recovery coordinator now, one of my friends, Jean, who does outpatient with me, and Channel 3 or Channel 6 broadcasted a news segment, and it said, Max Green opens sober living houses. And I sat there with those girls. I said, I'm going to get out and run that. You watch. So January 2020, I walked out the doors of county jail. It was a couple days before my birthday. I went and got drunk, went and got high. I think it was 2 days before my birthday, which was January 26th. I had to report to probation that next Monday, and I went in, I pissed hot, and my PO was like, you're going to go to prison, Jess. Like, can't keep doing this. I walked out of probation, I walked next door, and Max Green was in 7th Street, standing there, and I walked up to him. I never met him before. I walked up and I stuck my hand out. I said, hey, Max, I'm Jessica Dean. The first things the man said to me, he said, weren't you going to rob me? I said, yeah, but look, I didn't do it. I said, can I volunteer at your office? I heard that you're going to get some sober living houses going. I don't have anybody, and I'm going to end up dead. He said, yeah, go down there. And I walked down there, and he said, show me what you got, kid. I started out making $40 a week, just enough money for gas to get in to volunteer. That was it. Probably a couple weeks went by, and I went to Max, and I said, the place I'm staying at, I'm not going to be able to stay sober. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to volunteer up here, because I'm not going to be able to volunteer if I can't be clean. At that point, he handed me a set of keys to a blue Jeep, and he handed me a set of keys to a house at 1629 Lucas in Sunnyside here in Wichita Falls, and he told me to go open the first women's sober living house in Wichita Falls. He had one in Burke, but it was shutting down because it was too far to drive. So I took a dirty old mattress and a comforter, and I went and stayed in that house, but I stayed sober. My first girl came in the next day, and we just started hustling. The more resources that I could use, Max would give them to me. I got out in the community, and I just started trying to make a name, even though I had the charges pending, and I had all these bad, negative things. I knew that God had done something different in me. I knew that he had changed me, and I knew that this was going to be what it is today, and it's not even done. I can remember the very first day I walked in that office. We'll get a picture of it, but there's a set of armor in that office. And I walked in, and I saw that, and every hair on my body stood up, and I knew that I was supposed to be there in that office. Fast forward to where we are today. It's been, in 2020, I worked 9 months from January to August of 2020. I knew I had those pending charges still. I knew I was going to have to go to prison. I would pray. I would drive my little Jeep that Max gave me, and I would be like, "Dear Lord, please don't let me go to prison when I go to court." And he would say, "You're going, like you are." And I knew when I walked into court that day. I told both my attorneys, I said, "I'm going to prison. It's just a matter of how long I go for." The Lord told me. He never told me I wasn't going. He would tell me I was going every time. I had Bob Estrada. He was co-counsel and my attorney, Reggie Wilson. And the last thing Bob told me, he said, "You get up there, you plead your case. We're going to plead your case as best we can. We're going to bring up these character witnesses. We're going to show the judge what you've done in the community already so far." He said, "But the last thing," he said, "you get up there and you point at that judge and you point at that prosecutor." He's like, "You tell Judge McKnight and you tell John Gillespie, I'm only doing what you and you don't do in my community. So let me come home and do it." And I did that. I got up there shaking, scared to death. And I said everything that Mr. Estrada told me to say. I got 6 months state jail. They were coming at me before that with a 7-year charge and a 14-year charge for violating my probation. The judge gave me 6 months. I got my 80-20, which meant I got my back time. I only did 110 days, and I came home. Came home December 11th of 2020, and I just haven't stopped since then. Since then, we have just expanded, we've grown, we've made our bones in this community. We are moving forward every day. September of 22, Max Green, he gave me Wichita Falls Sober Living, which turned it into Sober Living Incorporated. Max told me if I wanted to grow, I had to get out there. He kicked me out of the nest. So he gave me the business. We have had nothing but success. We've moved forward to our new office here downtown, or down beside Parole. We have our new women's home, and we're working on getting a new men's home. We have had nothing but success. We are accepted by the federal parole system. They actually even pay for their guys and girls to come in. We're accepted with the state parole. The parole office is literally next door. Our county probation. We're even getting people from the district attorney's office now that are court ordered to come to our program. We network with many, many different counties throughout our state. We work every day to help people in our community to get into short and long-term treatment. If they're not a fit for our program, that's okay. We find them one. If we have to hustle up the money for a bus ticket, for a ride, for gas money, for whatever, we get people where they need to go. If they walk in that door, they don't leave without what they came for. And sometimes it takes a day or two for us to get them in where they need to be, but we'll put them on a couch. We'll put them up somewhere. We work really closely with a lot of the local 12-step recovery programs. There's a lot of great programs here in our county. God has just really done a miracle in this office and in my life. Today, I'm happily married. I got married 2 weeks ago. I just finished my first year at Midwestern State University. I'm going for my bachelor's in substance abuse counseling with a minor in nonprofit. I made the dean's list. I have a 3.5 GPA. Today I get to see my son Calvin. He's 18. He goes to Vernon College. I still have a daughter. Her name is Riley Dean. She's in Iowa Park. I haven't seen her in 10 years. I haven't seen her since she was 3, but she's out there. She knows who I am, and someday I'll get to see her. I just continue every day to get up and put on my armor of God, ask the Lord what he wants of me, and ask that he just keeps me in his will. Some of the saddest stories I've ever seen in my life have walked into this office, but some of the most amazing stories I've ever seen have walked into this office. I don't really know what else to say. That's kind of a rundown of me.
It sounds good.
Sound like, hang on, the story definitely moved me.
And then that wasn't even like all of it. Like I could have got deeper. I just want to kind of.